You know, what's funny is like I get interview requests, I'm not acting like I'm a big deal. Like, I get them all the time, but I do get interview requests fairly regularly. And the question that I have every time is like, wait, is this safe for work? Because a lot of times you'll see Kickstarter projects and it's like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And so when I got this email, I was like, hey, like, what is this? And then he sent me the book, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. So today's guest is going to be a fun one. It's a special one. But today's guest is an award-winning comic book creator, writer of such titles as Seasons, Lifeline, Manchild, and The Fabled Offering. He published his first graphic novel at the age of 20 and has raised nearly $50,000 crowdfunding his own projects. He's contributed also to multiple anthologies, including Scott Morse's This Ink Runs Cold, which features professional writers and artists from all across the comic book industry, reporting live, or at least at the time of recording, it's live from Missouri. Welcome, Mr. Nandor Shaffer. How you doing, sir?
Oh man, I'm doing wonderful. It's such a pleasure to be here, and yeah, I can't wait to talk about what we got going on. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. It's always fun to speak to new people, right? I know we've kind of been in each other's orbit at different points. And I feel like someone sent me Manchild. That sounds so familiar.
Really?
I
Oh,
might have,
cool,
I might
cool.
have seen Manchild. Does that have like a butterfly on the cover?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's me. That's it.
Nice. Okay. Yes. So now I'm even more excited. But I'm
Well,
very
and I'm
curious.
also glad you looked at Seasons and you weren't like you didn't run away. You're like, oh wait a second, I don't want to talk to this guy.
It's been some of the most fun I've had is just like checking out other types of books, right? I came into comics
Yeah.
like straight up capes and tights, like Jim Lee's the end all be all, like that was comics for me. And
Mm.
so, not only with this big, like 2025 has just been so varied and diverse with the types of comics that have hit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just going through the direct market, but then also with all of these different crowd-funded projects, stuff that I see like on the convention circuit, it's been really cool to see how far people stretch the medium as of late. So it's dope to see new things.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think comics is one of those very special mediums where you get such a broad range, of genres, of styles, not just visually, but in the literary sense as well. I mean, you could write an entire comic as a poem if you wanted to. You couldn't necessarily do that with a film or, a TV show or anything. And with the visual aspect, I mean, there is a comic out there for everyone, and a lot of people who may not read comics or haven't been introduced to comics, I always feel so bad. I'm like, man, I know there's a book out there for you. It's just a matter of time.
Right, for sure. I was just online and I saw Ram V responding to, I guess, a detractor, not even his own, but
Mm,
someone. There was a thread. Nick Dragata apparently said that he would love to see Absolute Batman kind of adapted as like a manga style something.
yeah, yeah,
And so someone was responding to that, like basically the criticism being like, "Oh, I'm tired of comic book creators treating comics like storyboards just to get to the next level or whatever." And
mm.
Rom V's response was like, "I don't think you know how storyboards work." So he posted storyboards. And I thought it was interesting because you hear that a lot, like, oh, it's just a storyboard. But the difference in medium being that a storyboard is typically an individual frame, not sequential the way comics are.
Yeah,
And it really kind of is like a shot list. And so the point just being that no, like someone who takes the time to lay out a comic page, especially someone like Nick Dragata and how dynamic his art is like that is its own separate thing. It's okay to want that adapted. With all that you said, you were talking about like just kind of stretching the medium, and that reminded me of that conversation. Like it's cool how you can pay attention to comics specifically and provide something that's unique to that experience, even if it does end up getting adapted or something like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of detractors or people who um, quickly assume that like I understand the hesitation to pick up a comic that just feels like a pitch for a movie, or a pitch for a TV show, and sometimes it can be, incredibly obvious when those comics pop up. But to somehow insinuate that Nick Dragato, who's been making comics for 20 plus years, is just now, wanting to hopefully, get something adapted that's Batman. Like that's crazy.
Right.
It's like Batman's been adapted so many times, and um, uh, this detractor and whoever else may be thinking this, I think it's very important to realize how exciting it would be for something to be adapted. But if, the work stands on its own, and I mean, anyone who's been reading Absolute Batman, can attest to that. But um, something that I love about comics that is so unique to the medium is just uh, how much is there, but also how much is not there. Like what is between the panels? What are you not seeing, and how the artist is able to tell a story in these static images, but make it feel like it is coming to life. Right in your hands or on your tablet or however you like to read comics. And yeah, I think when it comes to adapting anything, I think what makes comics so special too is that if you can adapt them right, um, everything you need is right there, and so there's definitely not as many hurdles, but um, I mean, we've seen how many Watchmen adaptations, and like you can't really adapt that book, but they've tried. They've
Right.
tried many times. And I actually think the best adaptation I've seen was probably the most recent animated two-parter that came out that J. Michael Straczynski adapted. He did the screenplay for those. But and anyways, I just think, yeah, it's a very interesting conversation to have. But I do think with Nick Dragata's case, that was a very, I think, short-sighted comment.
Right. So we're talking about like just things that we love about the medium. I'm staring at a wall of short boxes behind you. Um, I'm curious as to like how you got into comics, how long you've been reading them, and sort of what's led you down the trail that you're on.
Yes, so comics for me is a part of my DNA. It's another way to breathe. It's how I stay sane. I would say like there's really I was introduced to superheroes through movies and television. I was growing up before I could read. I was watching Sam Raimi Spider Man, or I was watching the early X Men films, the Fox X Men films, and I really enjoyed those. I mean, as a young boy, you're just like, whoa, like I want to be Wolverine or Cyclops or Spider Man, and you want to have have those abilities. It's all about the powers, right? And like doing superhuman things. And with that, I wanted to know more about these characters, and like how could I explore them, and where are these stories coming from, and the world of comics was introduced to me very early on as a kid. And I would pick up graphic novels at like a local bookstore, and then when I finally found my local comic book store, I remember when my dad first took my brother and I to a local comic book shop, just how like overwhelming that was. It was like, whoa, like there's just like so much here, so much to dig through. And it's one of those shops that has, you know, thousands of back issues, and you're just like completely overwhelmed but excited, and you don't know where to start, but you want to start somewhere, as quickly as possible. And it was digging through dollar bins or trying to find, like begging mom and dad, like, hey, like, can I get this $10 issue? Like, I know you probably don't understand why it's so important, but it is important to me. And like, this is why. And so, yeah, I've been reading comics since I was, you know, 6, 7 years old, maybe. And, uh, first I started looking at the art. I really enjoyed picking up character encyclopedias, and learning about the characters first, and then eventually reading the stories themselves. And so, I've been a comics fan for all my life, and it really, I was so fascinated with the medium and the art form, and I wanted to be an artist growing up. Like that was something and you hear a lot of writers say this, at first they wanted to be a comic book artist, and then they started, trying to draw, and it just wasn't there, or like maybe they didn't have the tool set that they would have preferred to have. And uh, eventually I learned that I loved writing more than drawing. And so naturally, I had this idea of like, let's see if I can make a comic and what that even looks like.
So, making comics, are there resources that you look to? I always ask this because there are some people who are like, I just had an absolute edition or a deluxe edition, and you can see the scripts in the back.
Yeah.
Other people have taken like screenwriting classes and kind of applied things that way. And some are just like, I don't know, I just kind of picked it up and started writing. Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I was kind of in the first boat there, where I knew I wanted to write a comic, but I had no idea where to start, and I also didn't know if I should uh, be working with an artist before I write the story. Like how does that process start? Like should I be co-creating this story with someone before I approach someone
Mm.
else with it, or like how what are the steps, and so um eventually I was um dealing with this idea with seasons, that eventually became seasons, and was really fascinated with this idea of a character whose abilities change. And I was like, cool, like I think I have a story in mind and I have a structure in mind, but how do I write this down? And what does a comic book script look like? And I do remember, like at the time I was like, I feel like I've seen scripts before, and so I was digging through old graphic novels, and old books that I've had on my shelf for so long, and seeing if there was anything that I could pull from and kind of get some examples. And the book that really showed me how to write was Jonathan Hickman's Nightly News. There's a fifth anniversary hardcover edition that has his script for issue one, and it has all of his notes. And he wrote and drew that book, so it was really interesting to read him editing himself. I thought
Mm.
that was really fascinating, and that was a really good learning tool for me. And so I started there, and then I would go to my local library and look at. There was a book by Greg Pak and Fred Van Lente called like Making Comics Like the Pros. And I rented that and was devouring that and reading all the different steps. And so um, the one other book I remember picking up was this book called Unnatural Talent by Jason Brubaker, who is a comic book creator, not Ed Brubaker, but Jason Brubaker. And he did some amazing books like Remind and Sithra, and he had this kind of how-to book called Unnatural Talent, and it was about making comics and kind of setting up a business. And if you wanted to get into indie comics, this is how you can do it. And so I think those three resources were really the things that helped direct me and gave me some sort of path to walk on, even though I was still kind of learning as I went and walking in the dark, so to speak.
Nice. So it sounds like those resources kind of gave you structure, gave you a bit of a blueprint. Um, what are there specific works that you would point to, or is it writers that you would point to as far as inspiration? Like, what's the type of stuff that's like, man, I really loved this. I got to jump in the fray.
Yeah, man. So my formative books that really got me thinking like I want to write comics, and that really showed me how powerful comics can be, would be Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting's Captain America run specifically. That was a huge turning point for me, with like the death of Captain America and Bucky, Winter Soldier coming back and becoming Captain America, and that whole redemption arc was so fascinating and so exciting as a kid. And like for a long time, Bucky was kind of like more my Captain America than Steve was, and that was like, you know, such an interesting character, and I really loved the way that Ed Brubaker specifically could get inside characters' heads. And I that you know I migrated over to Ed Brubaker's image stuff, Criminal and Fatale and Velvet and other stuff that he did with Epting. And so uh, that work specifically, also a lot of Hickman's Marvel work. So
Mm.
um, Fantastic Four again with Epting. I started following artists more than writers as a young adult, and then eventually I started noticing, wait, these artists are always pairing up with these writers that I like too, and like there's like this isn't a coincidence, right? And
Right.
so with the death of Johnny Storm and with FF, and Hickman and Epting working together, which eventually led to me following Hickman's work to his Avengers run. And so, I grew up reading, Marvel comics and DC around, the New 52 and kind of the Architects era of Marvel, doing like, Bendis and Fraction and Brubaker and Hickman and Jason Aaron. And so those, all of those writers in that time specifically, was so influential in the way that I consumed comics and what I expected out of comics.
Mm.
And then, besides them, I would say it was a lot of Scott McCloud stuff that I really got into. And it wasn't necessarily understanding comics, or his tutorial like books, or his books on making comics, but it was, even though that became like those are so important and taught me so much, but what I was more impressed with at the time was reading The Sculptor and Zot, his early stuff that he did, and so learning about how he would make comics and then reading the comics he actually made, was so inspiring to me. And I felt like I was, finding gold, like you're finding hidden treasure that no one else knows about, and you're learning so much, and you just can't wait to like see if you can implement any of these things into your own work.
Nice. So I'm curious to know from you, like what you feel makes a comic good. Like what do you see in writing that's like that's impressive?
Mm. I think it's word choice. So like specific word choice, and the ability to pace out the dialogue or the narration on a page, and maybe that's an interplay between the two. But what always really strikes me, that's a good comic that's well written, is a comic that is arm in arm with the visuals, but that um, I love opening like a two-page splash or a splash page, and there just being like one sentence, and that sentence being like devastating, or like very impactful, and like you don't need to um, you know be super flowery with your language or anything, but it's just like being able to get to the point and make the reader feel something right out of the gate. So I think that's something that I always look for. But the other thing that I'm always really impressed by is the ability to do a long running series, and a long form story, and make every issue feel important.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's one of the most difficult things you can do in comics, and with serialized stories. It's like, how do you make the reader, if you're doing a monthly book or just a long series, like how do you make the reader feel like what you're reading about is important to the next issue and the previous issue? So um, leaving out any filler, I feel like that's such a difficult thing to do, because um, it can be really tempting to just let the art speak, almost like to the detriment of the writing, if you want
Mhm.
to say, where it's like, oh well, like I know comics is primarily a visual medium, but like just because you're working with an amazing artist doesn't mean you can be, let off the hook of your part of the collaboration, your part of the job, and how can you complement each other. And so I think being able to see that on the page, and knowing when to let the art speak, but also being able to complement it and vice versa, that's when um, that's when you're reading something really special, I feel.
Yeah, I like a couple of things you said, right? Like the like word choice. There's definitely like I can think of. Actually, I can't think of because I'm tired, but I can think I can recall that feeling though. Like when you see words on a page and it just like you almost, no disrespect to the artist, but it's like you almost forget there's a picture there. Like
Yeah.
that's how impactful the words are. And it's like then you kind of step back and absorb the rest of the page as well, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The art lets you like process it,
Mhm.
whereas like the words are right there, and then because usually, and maybe it depends on where the lettering is placed, of course, but like if you're reading something left to right, you always kind of read the dialogue first in conjunction of looking at the image, and the writing is informing the image, as is the image informing the writing. So it's like this dance that you're having to process all at the same time. But like there's a one of the best examples that I like to give is in Watchmen, when Doctor Manhattan, I think it's issue 4, the Doctor Manhattan issue, when he shows his origin, and he gets blasted in the um, you know whatever container he's in, that he gets locked in. And the words Alan Moore chose to write is like, his narration is like, and the light is taking me to pieces. And I always remember reading that, and like it just like hit me so hard. And it's only 5 or 6 words. And then of course you have Dave Gibbons, amazing um you know representation of seeing someone being torn apart and shred, from the inside out. But uh like taking me to pieces, like the word choice there, it could have been anything else, but he chose those words, and it feels like a violation. It feels like this character is getting, torn apart and eviscerated. And so I just think it's simple but direct, and it sticks with you.
Yeah. And I think perhaps that's kind of the best reminder that for a comic, it generally starts with a script. It's just words on a page until an artist like brings it to life. And
Yeah.
so it's like those words have to be impactful. They have to inspire, at the very least, they have to inspire the artist,
Right.
for it to
Right.
reach you. So it's almost like you're writing for that audience of one. Like,
Yeah, you want to impress the artist, and like especially if you're trying to you know attract the artist to work with you. You need to make sure that what you're bringing to the table is attractive and is your best. And if the artist isn't convinced about the project, then how are you going to convince readers, to enjoy it? So you're right on that.
Well, speaking of impressing artists, right? Let's talk about your comic project. Right now, we are looking at the campaign for Seasons. Volume 2 is out, and so you got a campaign where you're offering the first volume as well as the second for anyone who needs to catch up. But I'd love to know like what the where the idea came from and what the overall story is for Seasons.
Of course, yeah, I'd love to talk about it. So Seasons is um, a planned 4 volume graphic novel series. It's a supernatural, uh, I like to say, supernatural story with some grounded like superhero elements, and it follows this young man, Fletcher Eames, through 1 year of his life, and with each passing season, his abilities change. So he's having to uh, learn about his abilities and what he can do uh, with each book. But he always gets set back with each volume because what he can do is always different. And so he's always having to adapt to these changes and figure out why this is happening to him. And so it's kind of my quick tagline is it's James O'Barr's The Crow meets M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable. And you don't have to be a superhero fan to enjoy this book, but if you are, you'll see little winks and nods to like kind of typical superhero storytelling, but there's a real grounded nature to it all that is very much a character study about personal responsibility and overcoming trauma and overcoming emotional as well as supernatural entities that take hold of you. And so, Seasons really is intertwined with my origin story in comics. I first came up with the idea right out of high school. I was going about to start my first semester in college, and I knew I wanted to be a writer. And I was really fascinated with journalism at first, but then that slowly but surely turned into me being more fascinated with like I wanted to write stories. I didn't want to write about other people's stories. I wanted people to write about my stories. And so um, I was like, okay, well, I love comics. I feel like this is somewhat within reach of maybe what I could do. Like, it was an experiment of like what a comic would look like if I could make one. And coming from my background and loving superheroes, I was really um, really smitten with the powers that certain characters had. But I thought, what if, what if Superman didn't always have the same power set? What if Spider-Man, abilities changed? Um, would they even be the same character anymore? Probably not. But like, what if there was a character where that was his identity? Was the idea that the powers would never stay stagnant and they would always, alternate? And so that led to the idea of the structure of the story where I thought, well, why? Why would that happen? And so I kept asking myself questions and eventually came to the conclusion of this idea of, seasons and nature itself turning and the world changing and you changing throughout the year. And, the person you are at the end of the year, you may not be the same person. And so the powers really became this metaphor for tools that can help you overcome your worst fears and your greatest enemies.
Gotcha. So I'm curious because I feel like the challenge anytime there's an indie superhero project is like there are so many superheroes, right? And several of them I know. Like there's several Marvel superheroes that I'll never know, but
Yeah.
they, but they've got the push of Marvel behind them. So then it's like, okay, if I don't have room for all of Marvel or all of DC, what makes this superhero project special? Like what I guess the question there's two, right? Like why superheroes?
Hmm.
When it feels like, on the indie route you could kind of do anything. But then also like um if the story has to be a superhero, like I don't know, it's compelling to you. The idea of this is compelling for you, right? Like what drives you to make it different or stand out?
Yeah. So, it's I was really disillusioned with doing any superhero book that had typical superhero tropes. I really didn't want to lean into anything that like I almost consider Seasons to be like an undercover superhero book. So like it's there are no tights, no twirling mustaches, no characters like no villains having like some sort of crazy monologue where they explain their plan or anything. And I really wanted to strip uh strip all of that away, but still keep the core kind of hero's journey idea, or this um, superhero origin story idea that I've always found very fascinating and compelling is the idea of like whenever some of our favorite superhero characters, Bruce Banner or um, you know Peter Parker and Tony Stark, anytime they have that moment where they discover, that they have these abilities or the ability to do something greater than they ever have before, they change as a character. And that switch that happens there is just powerful because it's a moment of self-reflection. It's also a moment of um, new potential that they never had, that they could do. Sometimes that's born out of tragedy. Sometimes it's born, out of making a mistake and learning from your mistakes. Or sometimes, you're born with it, like the X-Men are. Like they have this ability and they eventually have to make a choice if they want to join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or they want to, go to Xavier School. So, um, that was what really captivated me about superheroes and the superhero origin story, and being able to uh, take a normal guy and give him the ability to make these choices consistently. And what would that look like to always be imbued with new abilities, but have to keep on using them and learn how to use them and try to figure out why he has them in the first place. And so it really came down to wanting to kind of speed up this evolution of a character through 1 year, where you could see someone change at a faster rate than you usually see superhero characters do, in Marvel or DC. So I think that's kind of one of those ingredients that helps Seasons in particular stand out, because you're able to actually grow with the character and
Mhm.
you're able to do it over a short period of time.
I love that part about making choices, right? Like, uh, no surprise to anyone on this show, but I'm a big fan of Milestone comics, and Static is
Yeah.
my favorite
Oh, I love Static
superheroes.
Shock. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the original like 1993 series, the the first story arc is 4 issues called Trial by Fire, and
Mm.
it's the Static origin. And so for the uninitiated, Static's origin, he's Virgil Hawkins. He's a high school kid. He's getting bullied. He's like the typical nerd kid. Uh, One of his friends is a gang member and is like, look, like you need to like stop being a punk, basically, like, or don't let these people get the best of you. Gives Virgil a gun and is like, hey, there's a big fight going on. You could, handle your business. No one would know it was you, like whatever. So
Mm.
Virgil goes to this gang fight, has this sort of existential crisis, like, ah, man, I'm not a killer. I can't do this. And chooses not to use the power of the gun to end someone's life, right?
Yeah.
He's there, wrong place, wrong time, ends up with these superpowers. And so he immediately decides, like, to kind of, I'm going to be a superhero then. But then his first sort of, I don't know, temptation as a superhero is like this other superpowered gang member is like, hey, we've got these powers, like come work for me, come be my henchman or whatever. We can like really manipulate things and have all the things we want to have, right? And it's the same decision making process. Like I've got this power. Do I want to use it for good or evil?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm gonna do it for good. But I love that origin because it's like you see the same qualities mirrored. Like even before he was a superhero, he had that moral compass. Um, and then it serves him well as a superhero. And I just love that the way that distinction was made. It's subtle, but it's important because it's like we establish who he is at his core. And so when you're talking about these heroes like Peter Parker or like Tony Stark, and I guess both of these, we don't even have to look at the comic versions, but like the MCU version, it's like
Right.
there's that moment where they're faced with something, right? Like Peter's crushing, stuck under all the rocks. And it's like he's not talking to himself as Spider-Man. It's like, no, you're Peter Parker, you can do this. Ugh, let's push the rocks, right?
Yeah.
Or like when Tony has the realization, like, I am Iron Man, like to the point that it's his last words, and it's not like it's not an arrogant statement. It's
Mm.
like, no, like this is who I am. And that's part of what I love about superheroes, because like when you hear the term superheroes, you think big, strong people, but often
Yeah.
in
You
their
think
most
perfect.
right,
Yeah. Like they're perfect and they look, perfect and they have the perfect physique and they always make the right choices, but it's not the case. Yeah.
right, right. And so it's like what we cheer for in our superheroes is their humanity. And I think that's what gives us hope. Like
Yeah.
we can make
Yeah,
decisions great too.
what's extraordinary about Spider-Man isn't Spider-Man, it's Peter Parker. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man is is Peter on display, but like what makes us love him is because Peter is relatable and he's also choosing to do good in spite of all these reasons why he could not, and the fact that, he makes the mistake of letting the robber uh, leave, and that's the robber, that shoots Uncle Ben and kills him. It's like that moment is something that Peter Parker has to deal with, and Spider Man is his way of redeeming himself, from that moment and doing that. And um, you know, that's why these characters are like modern mythology, because what makes that resonate so much with us is the fact that they are human and that they have these choices that they have to make every single day, and they're the same choices we have to make. And so maybe we're not swinging through New York City, but we're having to walk to work every day, and we're having to engage with people, and we can be heroes in small ways. And so um, that's what makes these characters so important, and why they've lived on for so long.
For sure. And so with Seasons is on its second season, if you will. Volume 1 was spring, and volume 2 is summer. For those who have read volume 1, how would you say that volume 2 is different?
Yeah, so in volume one, Fletcher is really in this pit. We're introduced to him, and we get to learn about his state of mind, and his relationship, his estrangement, I should say, from his family, and also his the lack of love in his life, and his yearning for to be in a relationship and to be with someone. And by the end of volume one. Through the course of the story, he's fighting these shadow selves, and he has to fight his own shadow self. And through the course of the story, he has to learn about who he is and what his desires are, and he kind of has to fess up to his own shortcomings, and maybe the things that he's failed at, and maybe the things that he's always kind of questioned himself but never took the time to face. And so he's his own worst enemy. And as we get into volume two, um he started in the pit and now he's in the wilderness. So, and you know, I say that in the sense of him having to now that he has been faced with himself and that he has answered some of his own questions. What's the next step? You know, sometimes we'll read a story, and the end of the story will be, oh, the character has learned from his mistakes, and that's the end, and we never see what happens afterwards. So summer is the exploration of what is that next step. How do you find home again? How do you go back to the people maybe you've wronged, or how do you accept these things that you've gone through, or maybe that's been done to you or that you've done to others, and how do you make amends? So with volume 2, he's really um, having to struggle with that and try to figure out what he if he can go back home, if he's welcome home, if he should, take these steps, and or if he should just, keep running. And a big theme about this book is running away from your problems, and Fletcher needs to face these problems. So volume 2 really gives him um, the support system. He finds a support system in this volume to be able to help him articulate and learn about what his next steps need to be. And he's no longer fighting himself necessarily, but he's fighting these avatars of nature that are taking him on, and he has to, and they all mirror different facets of his life and different traumas in his life that help him see more clearly about how to think about things he's gone through. So, and he's also not alone. He has a buddy in volume 2 named Heath, who's kind of this older brother figure that helps to put him on a path to find who he's destined to be.
Nice. So I'm looking at this campaign, and actually I'm going to share my screen because for those of you who have not seen this project yet or seen this book yet, the art is awesome.
Thank you.
Can you talk a bit about finding the artist for this project with Seasons being kind of your first story, and how that collaboration has been?
Yeah, of course. Anthony Gonzalez Clark is the artist on the book, and he um, worked on both volumes, and he's working on volume 3 as we speak. And each book is over 100 pages, so he's put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. We both have, and working with him has been an absolute joy. When we first started working together, neither he nor I had made a comic before, so this is his first comic as well. And while he's done a lot of illustration work, and he's kind of dabbled in comics, he's never finished one. And so this was our chance to make a statement and to share with people what we're capable of and what we can do. And so we started working together, and we started putting out Seasons for free as a web comic initially. And we would have these 2 to 3 hour sessions, these live sessions where he would thumbnail, and we would go over the script together, and he would lay out the pages, and we would agree on the layouts, and then he would pencil ink the book. And as our collaboration grew, and as we got more comfortable and trusted each other, now I trust him with anything I write. I'm like, hey man, like whatever you need to do, like, you do it. If you have any questions, let me know. But we've really gained trust over the years, and that's been so cool to see, and to be able to build that collaborative relationship, to see what we're able to do together. And he's just grown better and better as an artist, and hopefully I can make his art even better than it is, and his art will make my writing better than it is as well.
Yeah, there's this page. Well, I'm looking at a couple of things, but
Yeah.
the I guess I would say Tony's style, not so much like in the way the picture is made, but
Hmm.
like the scope, the perspective, the dynamism. Um, but yeah, I don't. There's like a sense of scale here that
Yeah, yeah. There's something really kinetic, about his work. Like there's a lot of energy behind it, and I think it has a lot to do with the camera angles.
right. And so it's like, especially in this shot, there's like just you feel this sense of power. It reminds me of there's a book, Strange Fruit, that Mark Waid did with J.G. Jones.
Oh yeah, yes,
And it's like the any one page could just be a painting on someone's wall, but also it tells a story. And it's
right.
just like
Yeah.
it really moves you. Like I mean, some of these pages are like, minimal on the text, and it's just like, what is happening here? This looks amazing. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's fun because, again, we talk about kind of making words leap off the page, right? Making sure that words have impact regardless of the picture that ultimately ends up being placed with them. And
Yeah.
so the two of you pairing is just that's awesome. And for this to be each of your first comic is crazy. Like this does not look or feel like first comic material.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm when bringing this series back and being able to share it with people. um I've worked on other projects since the first volume of Seasons, and I was like, man, like I've learned so much, and I've become such a better writer than when I started. I was like, do I really, like, do I want people to keep reading this,
Mm,
because it's my earliest work? But um, every time I look at it, I'm like warts and all, like it's my first book, and I'm still very proud of it. And I hope people who either want to make comics or are just excited to see, I love following writers from their earliest stuff to their latest stuff. Like whenever I love someone's work, I love to see how they evolve. And so, for people who might be interested in the work that I do, I would hope that they would be like, yeah, I want Nandor's first book because I want to see how he's gotten better, and also like what he did get right. And there's been a lot of people who have read Seasons and feel as though, you know, like, no, like there's no way this is, your guys' first work. And I'm like, yeah, no lie. Like it's very true.
now, I'm looking through the rewards, right? So, of course, seasons volume 1 and 2 are out. So when you back this campaign, you can get both volumes, and there are, multiple covers for each volume. So you get the ridiculous choice of covers. I don't envy this task of trying to figure out which cover to buy. So looking at the cover for season 1 or volume 1, excuse me. So it's cover A by Tony Gonzalez Clark. And then we've got a cover B by Luke Eidenschink.
Correct. Yeah.
I love that. It's so trippy with like the sort of whirly
Like
gig.
spirals. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this might be my favorite for volume 1, the cover C by Rob Willis.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
the shadow self in the mirror, but then also enveloping him is interesting. Like,
Yeah, that one really tells a story, right? And
mhm,
I love the hands grabbing at Fletcher's clothing, and like sneaking up on him as
right.
he's faced with himself in the cracked mirror, aesthetically. And Rob's work is so detailed. There's really this David Finch aesthetic to it.
Right. Right. Like that. That bathroom looks so gritty. And Fletcher has his hands on that disgusting sink. That's crazy. And then volume two, still a cover by Tony Gonzalez Clark, which I love this. I love the composition on this. Um, we've got a B cover by Richard Morgan, like this really cool, like painted style.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't want to call like every painting Bill Sienkiewicz inspired, but it definitely gives me that vibe. Like,
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, there's an abstractness to it, you know, and that's depicting when Fletcher encounters Judith, like the avatar of the storm or of rain, of like sorrow in volume two. And so yeah, he's reaching out to her in that image.
wow. And then we've got the C cover by Corey Barton. Oh wow, it's like puppet strings.
Right, exactly.
That is awesome. So yeah, so you can back this. Of course, you know you can get the PDF download. You can get caught up digitally for as little as $10. It'll get you the whole story. And then there's even a little preview of Volume Three that you can get in an ash can. And like I said, you've got your choice of covers for each of these three different covers. Volume one looks like Volume One is $15, and then oh wait, no, depends on which cover you get. But
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So the standard covers or cover A's are all 15. So the baseline is $15 per volume, but then the variants are a little bit more.
got you, makes sense. So yeah, you can spend up to $30 per volume, depending on which cover you'd like. Plus, you can get a bundle with that ash can as well. Oh, there's hardcovers.
Yeah, so these are very limited and rare. So a few years ago I released seasons as these like limited edition hardcovers. And I sold out of all of them. And so with the trade paperbacks, I was like, well, I still have a few hardcovers left of volume two. So I'll put these up there, you know, in case people want to check them out. But I will never, you know, reprint volumes one and two as hardcovers again. So they're like, this is it. Like, so if you do want a hardcover, you know, it is available.
Man, read me with a good time. You can get, you know, like a super bundle with both books, the Ash Can, some of the previous Foxhole projects, and this really cool T-shirt. I like the logo.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, that is my catch-all bundle. So if you want to get everything, the Foxhole Comics bundle is for you know every book that I've published, which is like seven or eight now in total. So as well as the T-shirt. So it's like over 400 pages of comics altogether.
Nice. And then, wow, there's original art up for sale. There's a cover art up for sale. Like, there's a lot. Ah, that cover C we were just talking about. The original art for that is up for sale for volume one.
Yeah.
Man, man, to be rich, man.
Oh, I know.
Right? So yeah, there's a lot up for grabs with this project. You know, as we're filming this, the project's been live about a week. So we've got about 3 weeks to go. I imagine by the time this goes live, we can maybe cut that in about half. Like you probably got 2 weeks to go, which I know is not half of three, but it's late at night.
A
You know,
week and a half. Yeah.
yeah,
There
about
you
a week and
go.
a half, you know. So you need to jump on this. You need to jump on it. I have no doubt that by the time you see this, the goal has been reached. So it's not a matter of like, oh, are we going to fund this? But it's really a matter of, are you going to secure your book or not? Because you don't want to have to wait until volume three comes out to catch up on all of it. And then, especially if you want some of these more limited tiers or variants, then you got to jump on it now. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to point out, yeah, the cover C's for both volumes one and two are Kickstarter or crowdfunding exclusives. So like, I won't be selling these on like a different store or like at a convention or a signing. I will, covers A and B, but with cover C's in particular, those are exclusive to crowdfunding. So, if anyone's like, you know, really wanting to get these covers and pick them up through here, that's the best way. And also, um, Seasons just this year was picked up by a publisher, and so I'm really happy to announce and say that the book will be in the direct market sometime in 2026.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. I think that's a good note to kind of leave on, right? Like this project is live right now. Like I said, like he said, some of these covers you will never see again. You won't see them in person. You won't see them anywhere. Uh,
Yeah.
so you want to jump on this. You want to be that cool kid that's like, oh, you got this at your local comic shop. I had it when it was exclusive to Kickstarter, right? We all know someone like that. I might be someone like that. But Nandor, I would love for you to let just the audience know where they can find you, where they can follow the progress of the campaign, but also what else you got going on.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, as you stated, the campaign as of this recording, we have about 22 days left, and we're nearly halfway to our goal. So I'm very confident we'll make it. But if people would like to follow it, you can follow the campaign, and you'll get updates as I post them. I'll be adding some new add-ons throughout the campaign, some original art add-ons and some sketches and stuff. So look forward to that. But um, the best way to find me is I always point people to my YouTube channel, which is Foxhole Comics, and I do video essays and some live streams, and we'll share out updates and things like that. And then there's also my newsletter, which is foxholecomics.substack.com, and there I usually we'll post updates as well, or do some articles and let people know where I'm going to be with certain store signings or conventions around the country. And then you can find me on X or Blue Sky and Instagram at Nandor Fox, NANDORFOX.
Oh, this is awesome. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, but video essays are some of my favorite things to watch and listen to.
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I have some. I don't post as much as I want to, but as you know, it's a lot of work, and there's so much time that gets involved into it, and you know by the time you're working on something, it's 4 hours have passed, and you're like, wait a second, like I'm still on minute two of this video that I'm trying to edit or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a joy, and it's just been something fun for me to be able to explore some ideas that I have, and hopefully be able to be more a part of the community. So
Nice. Well, I just subscribed. Wait, did I subscribe? Let me press the button now. I think I was just yeah, I did. I pressed it. All right.
oh,
So,
thank you so much.
all right, no problem. So you guys, you can follow Nandor. I'm gonna make sure all the links that he just gave you are in the show notes and in the description of the video. If you want to back the campaign, I'll make it easy for you. Just go to comicsaredope.com/seasons. That'll take you to the Kickstarter page as long as it is live. And yeah, let me know when you back it so that we can compare which covers we got and all that stuff. So I will see you guys in another video soon. Huge thanks to Nandor for his time. But you guys stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.